SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Hello and welcome to the 300th episode of the iGaming Daily, a special episode. Today we are going to be taking a trip across Europe and across the globe to discuss a challenging period for evolution, but first to analyse the Labour Party inheriting a regulatory overhaul within the UK market. To discuss the Labour Party and the UK, the state of play for the UK, I'm joined by SBC's Managing Director, Andrew McCarron. Andrew, how are things? How is everything going?
Yeah, we're going all right. As you said, the Labour Party won the election in the UK last Thursday and now heading up the government, so be interesting to see how they tackle it.
Incredibly interesting, and it's great to have you on for episode 300. Actually, yeah. How much have you seen the podcast grow and evolve? Quite a lot, right?
It's been amazing, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, we've had a good boost this year by one of our main sponsors. Who are they again?
Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Actually, 56% of the EGR Power 50 personalised player experiences with Optimove. And as a special offer, actually, Optimove are giving new clients a free first month when they buy Optimove. For more information about that, though, you can go to optimove.com/SBC. And of course, all links will be left in the podcast episode description.
So you only get that kind of seamless content after trying for 300 episodes.
Yeah, no, we are going to talk about the UK market, of course, a period of a real change. What direction that change goes in now, we were always on course for change, but what direction that change goes in now remains to be seen. But the Labour Party now, as you mentioned, are leading the government. They got the keys to number 10 last week. They seem to have hit the ground running in terms of wider policies, really, getting things going. But not too much movement on the gambling industry yet, but that was very much to be expected. But who are the new main characters, if you like, when it comes to overseeing the gambling industry? Who are the main faces at play now that we know of? There are obviously more to be revealed.
Okay, so Keir Starmer became Prime Minister last Thursday, as you know, and it's up to him to sort of put people in charge of the different ministries. The key ministry for gambling is the Culture, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. It's been there since 2001. Before that, it was in the Home Office. And the new Secretary of State for Culture is Wigan MP called Lisa Nandy. She's got quite a high profile. She ran for the leadership of the Labour Party at one point. Good thing Wigan's one of the northern constituencies, not too far away from where we are in East Manchester, in Ashton-under-Lyne, which, funnily enough, is where the Deputy Prime Minister's constituency is. Lisa Nandy's constituency, the Tote Group, have got a headquarters there. So she's got an interest in the gambling industry just from that perspective, from a constituency. So that's interesting. But for the rest of the team that's going to be in Culture, and specifically the gambling minister, we haven't heard what's going to be the case yet. We know Chris Bryant, who's a long-standing MP from Wales. He's going to be part of the mix, but I don't think he's going to be covering Culture. I got hoodwinked by Tom Galanis at Tag Media, who sent out something suggesting that our old friend Caroline Harris was going to be Minister for Gambling. That completely got me a hook, line and sinker, because Caroline is a Labour MP. She used to work for Keir Starmer. She's been in his office at least before he was leader. But she's one of the bigger critics in parliamentary terms of the gambling industry. So I'm still hoping that will just be a bit of satire on Tom's part, and it doesn't come reality, because if it does, that's going to be a big challenge for the industry.
I guess it really does show that the next few days, few weeks, when we see these ministers appointed, it really is important, like who oversees the sector. It's massive decisions to be made.
Well, what's interesting is kind of, because we've had a good 10 years of mismanagement from the Conservative Party running the government, the writing's been on the wall for a good few years that Labour's more likely to come into power. And the Betting and Gaming Council, for a long time, that's been the CEO of that's been Michael Duggar. He's a former Labour MP, so he knows these people in power particularly well.
Yeah.
He's going to be moving up to the chairmanship role, and but he's still around, so he's in the mix and he knows it all. Back in the day, a guy called Tom Watson, who was the shadow deputy prime minister under Corbyn, he was running a specific look at gambling, funded by an organisation that has been quite critical of online gambling, but some good suggestions came through that. But Tom Watson, again, former Labour MP, he's no longer MP, but he is, or at least he was, one of the non-exec directors at Flutter.
Yeah.
So again, good connections to know who to speak to within the new regime.
Yeah, it's very interesting, actually. One of the things we've seen from Sir Keir Starmer with the appointments, and as you mentioned, the writing's been on the wall for a while, so these are not spontaneous decisions. You feel like he's had them in the back pocket for a while. Is he's appointed people that aren't necessarily from a political background. I think James Timpson getting the role in prison reform because of the work they do. Patrick Vallance getting a role as well. It's a bit of a left field one, but is there a chance we get somebody like that who has experience in the gambling sector who could come in and perhaps help? Or does that even show more optimism around collaborating with the industry?
I think you would, but not necessarily for one of these roles.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one person in Parliament recently, but he was a Conservative MP called Philip Davis. His family was from the bookmaking side of things, but for most of his views, he is quite far away from the Labour Party, and he's just lost his seat, so he's no longer in Parliament.
Yeah.
I don't really... It would be the only person who would look at that, I would say, who's quite well respected, is Richard Flint, and he's not been directly in the gambling industry for a while. But I can't see him using some political capital on the gambling side of things for this department. The only thing that's a bit of a wild card around the culture department is the person who was set to take over the culture, Thankum Debonair. She lost her seat, so some of the plans have been thrown up in the air. So what it does, it opens a door for a bit of uncertainty, and it could just be plugging a gap. I mean, one thing to remember is it was the Labour Party originally who passed the Gambling Act back in 2005, and the current Labour Party is not too far away in mindset to how it used to be back in the early 2000s. So whether they'll think they'll need major surgery is another thing. I mean, the main problem we've got is, well, it's twofold things. There was the betting scandal in the election, which suddenly brought betting way to the forefront, whereas before then it was, I think was it 2 lines in different manifestos about pretty non-committal stuff, because nobody wants to deep dive too much into gambling because it can be quite a political hot potato. And it certainly became that during the election. So it's suddenly a high visibility area because some MPs bet on themselves or bet against them, which it's not the done thing really. But the other thing that's going to be coming down the line very, very soon is the Gambling Commission are about to they should have done it last month, but I guess with the election they weren't able to. About to unveil their new research into problem gambling rates. And the problem there is they've changed the methodology again.
Okay. So
the rate is going to be much, much higher than what we've been used to recently. So it's been like 3s and 4%. Historically, it's always been 9%, but this new research is going to have it much higher. And people are going to be comparing, saying, it's shot up, when it's not. It's just the methodology has changed. And it was always at this level. Yeah. But that's a bit of a nuanced take that you probably won't see in the media. You'll just see.
It doesn't make news headlines, right? It's especially the radio headlines, if you like, those takeaways, those easy to digest ones. Can you just talk more really quickly on how that methodology is changing?
I could not.
Okay.
I was speaking. I was speaking to the Gambling Commission CEO at our Malta event, CasinoBeats Summit, and he was, again, because he's not in the weeds on it. He was telling me that it's changed and it's likely to go up because they've just changed and improved the methodology. But the only thing that will change, that goes in the gambling industry's favour, is this government has got a lot to do.
Yeah.
A lot to do. That'll have way more priority than fiddling about with the gambling industry.
That kind of brings me to where we started. As I mentioned, we were on course for white paper changes. The work had almost been done, and we were on this track. The likelihood the government or the department derails that or changes that is unlikely, right? They're going to keep it to what was planned in the white paper.
It had pretty much cross-party consensus on it.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything from a political perspective that was either one side or the other. If anything, because it's more socially aware, you say maybe they'll tighten up some of those social aspects. But I think it'll just be a tweaking and then let the Gambling Commission do its job, basically.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think one of the things that, was kind of the narratives of the election campaign wasn't so much, are Labour going to win the election, but it was, where will the opposition be after the election? And I think that's kind of relevant to the debate around the gambling industry. Where do you think the opposition will come from for this Labour government, when it comes to all issues, but on gambling specifically? Is it going to be from the kind of disrupted Conservative party that's in Parliament at the moment, or is it going to come from the left of the Labour Party?
Well, it's I can see a lot of disagreement coming from within the Labour Party, like you say. I mean, there's a lot of MPs there, but at the same time, there won't be too many wanting to rock the boat too early. Lib Dems have now got, I think, their biggest set of MPs for 100 odd years. But again, they'll be looking for something to a cause to pin their badge to, because they've been quite vague on a lot of stuff. So it might provide the opportunity, but it's just a bit too early to say at the moment. Yeah,
well, interesting stuff nonetheless. And I did have just one more for you, because you mentioned Labour in 2005 and the comparisons between this Labour government and that Labour government. Obviously, we can only make vague comparisons at the moment because this one is in its infancy. But one thing that Tony Blair did try to do back then and is kind of lobbying for again now is digital ID cards. And forgive me, it's kind of a rogue question, but just how much we saw him touting for it again in the Sunday Times last week. Just how much would that change KYC and that sector if we had digital ID cards? What impact could that have on the gambling industry?
Well, it would make things a bit more straightforward. It might help with affordability checks across different suppliers. But we've got quite an advanced KYC regime already in the UK. It's pretty effective. So I think it might make it cheaper. It might make it cheaper for operators to check different people. But there's a lot of the data sharing stuff that's really holding back any of the affordability stuff.
And obviously it was the Blair government that brought in the Gambling Act as well. Do you think there might be, when it comes to tackling gambling head on and, just really bringing forward white paper plans and evolving the Gambling Act, do you think they'll be discussing with Blair and with the old heads, or do you think they're going to very much do it their own way?
Probably not. I think Richard Caban, who's the minister that took it through, I think he's in the Lords now. Okay. I'm not sure. Certainly the Lib Dem party who's opposing it he's definitely in the Lords. Lord Bath, Lord Foster of Bath, who's a character, if nothing else. But what you tended to find is that the leaders tended to stay away from it just because it can be a really hot potato. But because this Gambling Act happened at the end of their second term, it got pushed through before the vote for the third one. That's done a lot of hard work, and it was structured in a way that to keep it fresh with the Gambling Commission. So I don't think there's not as big a body of work needed to do on it. So, like I say, there'd be more tinkering around the edges, I think.
Okay, well, interesting times ahead, Andy. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Some political hot takes there, and it'll be good to catch up in the future and see how many of them were correct and how many fell short of the mark. But yeah, some really interesting insight, and we look forward to seeing what happens in the UK market too. So thank you.
And can I just say congratulations to all the team on IGD for reaching episode 300.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
And to conclude this podcast, I'm going to be joined by Danny Lee, senior journalist at CasinoBeats, and we're going to discuss what's going on at Evolution. Some big developments take place at one of the world's biggest iGaming suppliers. Thanks for joining us, Danny. How is everything? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Good to be back on the podcast. Funnily enough, talking about Evolution again, but while they were caught in a bit of trouble last time, they're sort of on the receiving end of trouble this time. So interesting news to talk about.
Yeah, really, really interesting news. And obviously we are an audio podcast, so for those that can't see, Danny is in a full England kit today. He's very much got Three Lions fever. He's ready for England to win the Euros. But yeah, to serious matters, big developments at Evolution. You mentioned kind of a change of tact from the last time we were discussing them. Can you outline exactly what's going on with these the latest situation?
Yeah, so Evolution have a big sort of live casino studio based in Tbilisi, capital city of Georgia, and I think they staff around 8,000 employees there, sort of recording live casino games.
8,000?
Yeah, it's a very big studio for them. I imagine one of the biggest locations in Europe, or at least one of many. And so this week, it's been reported by sort of a Georgian trade union news source that at least 5,000 of those employees are set to strike this Friday on July 12th. And that's obviously representing quite a big majority of the whole workforce there. Now, this strike action is being led by the chair of the Labour Union in Georgia, and sort of they're reportedly striking over unsafe and unsanitary workplace conditions, harassment by managers, and meagre pay. Now, sort of the news source that I'll try to pronounce as Mouskabeli. Now, that could be very wrong, so apologies if so. Now, they sort of shed light on the accusations with published screenshots and communications of management at the studio, I imagine, being involved in various issues, including sort of sexist, racist and discriminatory remarks against employees. These screenshots were also accompanied by footage sort of detailing poor working conditions and also sanitary conditions of, I believe it was saying sort of the janitors at the company, the people that sort of, clean up there and stuff. Now, it's quite a big issue for them. It's not the first time. Recently we've sort of been seeing issues with sort of live casino studios and interactions with their employees. But yeah, quite a serious issue for like you say, one of the biggest suppliers in the industry. Yeah,
well, I mean, just the fact that it's one of their many studios and it's staffs 8,000 people, it really speaks to the size of Evolution. And yeah, you hope that it's sorted soon and that there's a resolution found, because 5,000 of the 8,000 as well is a significant amount. And you don't want to see the iGaming industry tarred with this, and Evolution as well, one of the big players. So you do hope that a resolution is found and that all parties are kind of happy. But Evolution has come out and provided a defence for these claims, right?
Yeah, you could say defence. You could also just say it's more of just a response to the situation. They've sort of come out and said, I believe they announced it on Facebook actually, that they will launch an investigation into these matters, and they're sort of wishing to get to the bottom of the problem and take take appropriate actions and increase their efforts to make sure that sort of all the employees adhere to and respect the company's common values, is what they referred to in their post. But in sort of more of a defence, they did also state that with having 8,000 team members there, they of course tried to do the utmost to safeguard that environment built on mutual respect and trust. However, there will always be a challenge to, on an individual and daily basis, monitor each action taken from all of our employees, even when they are not accepted. And I suppose that in a way is sort of a bit of an effect of running like a live casino studio. Like I said, there is 8,000 employees. That's quite a big workforce, and a lot of these people are coming and going, working different shifts, because obviously live casino gaming can often run 24/7 every day. So it is a big challenge to operate something like that. But you would, I suppose, expect a lot better from such a big company that makes a lot of revenue as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of obstacles in managing that type of workforce and that type of work environment. And it seems like Evolution on the front foot with trying to deal with it now as well. So, yeah, I hope to thanks ever so much for that update, Danny. And we hope to get an update soon on how it develops and how the reaction goes from Evolution. Thanks ever so much. That is your iGaming Daily for today, your 300th episode. It's been a crazy journey, and long may it continue.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.